Today, we've got the presidential map for 2012, and we're going to see how each state voted relative to the national popular vote. So we'll find out which states were redder or bluer. There's no spreadsheet this time. It's going to be all about the map. So first, we've got to get the national popular vote baseline. And back in 12, Obama won it with 51.1. Mitt Romney got 47.2. So that's a 3.9% margin for Obama. Any state higher than that is going to be relatively bluer. Any state less than that is going to be redder. So as we fill in the map, we're going to use some shading. The darkest colors are 10% or more. Then we've got 5 to 9.9, 1 to 4.9, and the very lightest colors are going to be under 1% relative percentages. So let's dive into this. We're going to do it alphabetically. In the first state, Alabama, Obama got 38.4, but Romney won the state with 60.6. That margin for Romney was 22.2. That's in the opposite direction of the entire country. So that's 3.9% away from Obama, another 22.2 toward Romney. That combines for a 26.1% relative percent. So we're going to zip through the rest of these states. Alaska is relatively redder by 17.9, Arizona and even 13, and Arkansas 27.6. Then we've got some relatively blue states. We've got California at 19.2, Colorado just 1.5, Connecticut 13.5, Delaware 14.7. Florida did vote for Obama in 12, but the margin was so narrow that it was still relatively redder by an even 3. Georgia, a big 11.7% redder. Hawaii, Obama has a connection to this state, and it was relatively the bluest state in the country by a huge 38.9. Idaho was almost that same percentage in the opposite direction, 35.6 toward Romney. Then we've got Illinois, Obama, another connection to this state. It was relatively bluer by 13%. Indiana was redder by 14.1. In Iowa, Obama comfortably won that state. It was relatively more friendly toward the Dems by 1.9. But then we've got some states that go toward the GOP. It's Kansas at 25.5, Kentucky 26.6, and Louisiana 21.1. Back in the other direction, it's Maine at large, 11.4. Obama won both districts, but the first one was much bluer at 17.5. The second, a lot less relatively blue at 4.6. In Maryland, they were a lot bluer at 22.2. Massachusetts, close at 19.3. In the key Rust Belt state of Michigan, they were relatively bluer by 5.5. Minnesota was to the right of Michigan, still relatively bluer by 3.8. Now we've got some red states. It's Mississippi at 15.4, Missouri 13.2, Montana 17.5, and Nebraska at large at 25.7. All three districts went red. The first comes in at 20.5. The second, 11.1, and the third district, a big 46.3. Then we've got Nevada coming in a little bit bluer at 2.8, and New Hampshire even milder than that at 1.7. New Jersey's back up into double digits at 13.9, New Mexico 6.3, and New York 24.3. Now back toward the right, we've got North Carolina at 5.9, North Dakota 23.5. Ohio again supported Obama, but it was still relatively redder by 0.9%. Oklahoma is way up there at 37.5. Oregon, moderately bluer at 8.1. Pennsylvania, just a little bit bluer at 1.5. Rhode Island, back up there at 23.6. Then another group of red states. It's South Carolina at 14.4. South Dakota, 21.9. Tennessee, 24.6. Texas, 19.7. Then in Utah, home state of Mitt Romney, this was relatively the reddest state out there at a massive 51.8. Then we've got a blue state, Vermont, at a significant 31.7. Then we've come to Virginia, and this state nearly voted perfectly in line with the nation. If you want to break the tie, we can go down to the hundreds. Then this state is very slightly relatively bluer. Then it's Washington back up there at 10.9 toward the Dems. West Virginia is redder at 30.5. Wisconsin, and even 3% toward the Dems. And the last state is Wyoming. That's a pretty massive 44.7 toward the Republicans. And after all that, it's Washington, D.C. No surprise, it's the bluest place out there. But it was still relatively bluer than the rest of the country by 79.7. So that's it. Those are all of the states, and that's the map. And this is the 2012 electoral map. And it's close to even, but Dems do come out with an advantage. At the top, their states total 285 electoral votes. Republicans are at 253. And the map is similar to how the overall map actually looked. But the two states that actually flip in this are Ohio and Florida. They went for Obama, but it was by a narrow enough margin that in this, they're going to be relatively redder. And how about Virginia, basically perfectly voting in line with that popular vote? Other than that, back then you've got Colorado, which was not as blue as it is today. It's actually redder than neighboring New Mexico. And in this, you've got Iowa, which definitely supported Obama, but today it's known as a pretty reliably red state. Since this time, some states have gotten a little bluer, some have gotten a little redder. Definitely the Rust Belt has gotten redder. Then you've got Georgia and Arizona. Those are comfortably red states that are considered battlegrounds today. So it was a solid re-election for Obama in 12. Not up to the level he did in 08, but it was definitely a little bit more competitive against Romney than McCain. But this is it. This is what the map looks like for each state relative to that national popular vote of 3.9 for Obama. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of these states? How about some of the under-the-radar states like New Hampshire, Minnesota, Oregon, or North Carolina? Let me know if anything jumps out to you down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.